G'day, guys, and welcome to the Thunder from Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Graham Solomon. And remember to go and smash that like button and the heart button if you're watching on Facebook, and go to the Graham Solomon Thunder from Down Under YouTube channel and belt that subscribe button. Join the family, hit the bell icon so you get notified so that you can join in when we get special guests like we have today. And today's guest is Zac Fischer from Offer Experts. He's a wholesaler and now a virtual wholesaler all over the States. And Zac is in charge of a team and is one of the young guns out there making it happen in the industry. So I'd like to welcome Zac to the podcast. G'day, Zac.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Graham. I really appreciate you having me on your show.
No problem, Zac. It's great to have you on. You're out of Dallas, Texas. And that's where you started locally and worked in Texas. And now, as we'll talk to you about today on the show, you've gone all over the States, you've gone virtual. So we want to get you on and share your journey about how you went from firstly working in Dallas in the state of Texas and then moving to nationwide. So it's awesome to have you on. And you can tell us about your team. You can tell us about how you've expanded and turned it into a big national operation. So awesome to have you on. But first, Zac, tell us a little bit about yourself, your backstory, how you got started in wholesaling, and how it's evolved into a national-wide business now.
Sure. No, I appreciate you. Absolutely. That was a great intro. So I've always been a guy that has been into entrepreneurship, business ownership, growing up as a young guy, always, trying to figure out some way to make money, whether it was selling something, mowing lawns, doing or whatever. Right. So out of college, I actually ended up getting into a furniture franchise where I owned a furniture store here locally in Fort Worth, Texas. And I was doing really well, but I kind of was getting a little antsy because I couldn't expand. It wasn't like McDonald's where I could go buy another location. I was very landlocked. And one of my buddies at the time, he showed me wholesaling. And I had never heard of wholesaling. I didn't even know that was a thing. And it blew my mind. I was like, man, you can flip paper. You can make 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 in one sitting, which I was doing with my furniture store. But I could only make money on Saturdays and Sundays because we were having events on the weekends. And I could only have really 2 events per weekend day, right? Saturday or Sunday. So the max really was like a week that I could do. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, I could sell 10 deals and close on them all on Monday, and then I still have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it really blew my mind. And I ended up actually partnering with that individual. And he convinced me to sell my furniture store, which was my livelihood at the time. I didn't know anything about real estate. And then a couple months afterwards, after I sold, he told me he doesn't want to be partners anymore. He doesn't want to do this. And so my whole world got turned upside down. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing really. So really at that point, it was all YouTube and just podcasts, just studying as much as I could. And, I ended up partnering with another individual who told me, hey, Zac, you're a wholesaler. I'm a flipper. Like this could be a dream, match made in heaven type of situation. He's like, I've been flipping since 2001. Now this is 2019 at the time. So I'm like, wow, you got a lot of experience. You could teach me a lot of stuff. This sounds awesome. Well, come to find out, he flipped houses in 2001. That's a huge difference between, hey, I've been doing it since 2001 to, hey, I flipped houses in 2001. It's a totally different market, totally different landscape. So first flip, we did really well. We made over 100,000. My eyes lit up. But that was really just like one of those, we didn't have to do anything. We basically slapped on some paint, put some granite countertops in there, and we had picked it up so low that, we were going to make a lot of money no matter what. Well, then the next 5 flips happened, COVID happened, and it was just a disaster. I mean, it basically, that ruined us. We lost money on every single one of those flips. We didn't have the experience that we really needed to win in that landscape. And so I ended up having to break away. And then that was the best decision of my life. When I finally decided, hey, Zac, you just got to do this by yourself. You don't need anybody else. It's just you and your team, your loyal guys. And we just, hit the ground running. And that's where we're at today.
And you started off in probably one of the toughest markets in Dallas, Texas. So Was it pretty tough to get deals at that particular time in Dallas?
Yeah, so it's and every year it gets more competitive, right? So when I first started in 2017, I really started learning about wholesaling around April. It took me until November to get my first deal. Now, granted, I owned a furniture store at the time. It was 7 days a week type of situation, so it wasn't like I was putting in a ton of hours. But every time you set an appointment, you're going out to a house that this gentleman's getting 4, 5, 6 offers, right?
Mm.
So you really had to learn how to sell, how to close, how to really your numbers have to be spot on. So and so learning that in a competitive market made it hard, but it also makes it like when if you can win in a competitive market, you can win anywhere, right? Like when we're doing deals now in Minnesota or Montana or Iowa where there's not competition. I mean, we just clean up there now because we learned in this market that where I'm competing against 10, 15, 20 other guys, and not just other wholesalers, but you're talking behemoth companies, right? You got the New Westerns and the Kikus of the world that you're competing against.
Yeah, that's right. So probably a good learning curve is to start in a tough market, and then things become easier from there. Now, you just mentioned, telling us your backstory about how you had a few obstacles to overcome. Was that also, not great at the time, but actually because you pushed through them, did that help you to, build up a bit more metal, a bit more steel within internally to be able to get through the hard things when they come along? Because you had a couple of hiccups and you were able to overcome those. Tell us a little bit about that if you can, Zach, like what that did for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what I've developed as my superpower is resilience. Mike Tyson always talks about you have a plan till you get hit in the face, right? Well, I've been hit in the face so many times, spun around so many times, but I just keep coming back for more. And that's something that I have really developed through these trials and tribulations that I've gone through these last few years. My first partner, I mean, he was a close friend of mine. And when he did that to me, it not only hurt like as a business owner, but also as a like that's my friend. And now we're not friends anymore, and it was just a really nasty breakup, right? It was almost like a nasty divorce, unfortunately. And then my next partner too. That one was probably more intense because it was longer. It was several years of pain and trying to we got into a hole decently quick because our first flip was good, but then when you start losing money, next flip, next flip, next flip, next flip, it's hard to get out of that hole. And wholesaling is really the only thing that kept us going. And and then you have to navigate things like the do not call list. I've been sued several times. It's just things that you can watch YouTube and you can listen to 150,000 podcasts, but you're not really going to know how to navigate this land until you actually do it and live through it yourself. Like I always tell people, wholesaling is simple, but it's not easy, right? It's a simple concept. There's really only so much to it, but it's not easy because there's so many things that you have to kind of dodge and look out for, and people trying to snake your deals. And how do you, especially going virtual too, like how do you keep a buyer from taking your deal when you're in St. Louis, Missouri, and you're here in Dallas, Texas, right? So there's just a lot of things that we've had to navigate. And if there's anything that I can tell your listeners out there is just don't give up. Like no matter what obstacle comes your way, you just have to, there's an answer to it. I mean, I've had my bank account negative several times. I've also seen my bank account with 150,000 plus, 200,000 in it. So it really just, you just have to keep going at it, keep fighting, and know that there's always someone out there that you can reach out to. That's really what I learned too. I would watch people on YouTube. I would reach out to them on Instagram. I would go into these Facebook groups. I would talk to people, network, see like, hey man, this is kind of where I'm struggling. What can I do to not have this happen or to get out of this situation? So I encourage your listeners to do that.
Yeah, that's a big one too, is networking. And I think people underestimate the value of networking and approaching people. Like you say, you're in Facebook groups and you reach out to people. People are generally pretty giving and they will help you out. And like you've mentioned also YouTube. People will share information these days, so you've just got to keep pushing, don't you? You just got to keep, you're going to. reach out to a few people, they're going to ghost you. But most people actually are quite happy to help you, and if they see that you've got a bit of go, they'll help you. So you've got that. You're up and about, and obviously one of the key points that you've just mentioned is, don't give up. Just keep pushing through everything. Just keep pushing and don't give up. So you can attest to that, and you've been a success. So you start in Dallas, you spread out through Texas. I've just met your lovely wife, Alyssa. She's part of your team. You just said she does dispo. So how big's your team? You've got you and Alyssa, and how many other people have you got as a part of your team?
Yeah, so there's 6 of us total plus a VA. So
Yep.
we have acquisition manager. He's kind of like also my COO. He really helps me kind of navigate the entire team. Alyssa is big on the dispo side, and then we have a full-time TC marketer. So we're a smaller team, and I like it that way. I've had a much larger team. I've had 5, 6, 7 acquisition guys, and it becomes more stressful for me, honestly, to make sure I'm feeding them leads and getting them all that stuff. And we honestly didn't do as much business. It was more just I'm juggling plates, trying to keep everybody happy. And when we went to a smaller team, we've done more business and we've had a lot more fun. Now we are at a position now where we do need to bring on a couple more guys, and that's something that we're going to do. But we're actually planning on moving the whole operation to Florida here soon, so we're kind of waiting on that. But you hear a lot of guys talk about if I can just grow my team, I can do more deals, and that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times, it's you have to know the fundamentals, right? Like when I started out, I was so focused on acquisitions. Like, let's just get as many contracts as we can. And then you start to learn, man, well, if I can't sell these deals, then I'm not going to make any money. So then you learn dispositions and you start building out your dispo team. Or what I did for the first 2 years was I really networked with other wholesalers. I was like, hey, man, I have this deal. Like, can you help me sell it? I think a lot of wholesalers out there, they underestimate JVing with people. That way you can focus on getting really good at one part of the business, and then you can start to build out that other part later. And then marketing is constantly changing. That's probably been one of the tricky parts to this whole puzzle for me. Because we started off cold calling, and then we did texting, and then the Trace Act came out, and then we switched to PPC, and they were learning how to go nationwide, and you can't just pull lists from every county in the world. It's going to cost way too much money. So how do you scale that? And so it's been a learning curve for sure. But I encourage people to start small, figure, get money in the bank. Some of my buddies that are most successful that I know, they had a job that paid for their life, and then they wholesaled on the side, and they got to where they were doing 75, 100, 120,000 a month before they quit their job. And then they were able to sustain that.
Yeah, they're great tips. I mean, we call them thunderbolts. You hit us with a few thunderbolts early, which is good because that's true. And when you sort of went on your own, Zac, was it just you and Alyssa, or did you start off like just you guys just against the world, and then you slowly built up that team? Was that how it sort of panned out? So you were doing everything at the start?
Yes, yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, when we finally broke off, it was me, it was my COO that I have now, and then Alyssa, and us
Yep.
three. We just kind of put our heads together. We were wearing all the hats. I was the TC, the marketer, the acquisition guy. I would help sell deals. I mean, all three of us were just kind of doing it all. And and then we hired some sales guys, and then they didn't really necessarily work out, some of them, and so we had to let them go. I mean, that's one thing too. I have a lot of or I network with a lot of guys that talk to me about how they struggle hiring sales guys. Well, it's just like sales. You're going to go through the numbers, right? I mean, you might hire 50 guys to find those 2 or 3 that are really good for you. So it's just, we've gone through the numbers in almost every position, and it's got to be a culture fit as well. We're all 3 of us are grinders. We really enjoy this work, and we don't mind. I mean, I was talking to AJ, my COO, yesterday. He was working till 9 p.m. He was locking up a deal at 9 o'clock at night yesterday, and I didn't tell him to do it. It's because he just loves it, And that's the kind of thing that you have to make sure they fit your culture and really just love it. I mean, we just love
Yeah.
wholesaling. We love real estate. We love helping homeowners. Wholesaling sometimes gets a bad rap, but if you really look at it as this person can't go to a realtor and sell their house, like maybe they only have 3 weeks. They're going to lose their house in 3 weeks if you don't help them out, and you can get them closed in 10 days. So we just try to focus on that as well.
Yeah, that part of the service side of it. So while you're doing your job, serve people as well, and then the rest takes care of itself. So that's good. You started off mean and lean. You were grinding. You've slowly expanded, and that's one theme that I get a lot is some people go bigger and then they scale it back because, like you said, if you get too big, you just seem to be running around chasing your tail. Whereas if there seems to be a sweet spot where you've got a good team, you may sort of expand and get a VA and someone else down the track. But it sounds like you've got a good little team. And so you started in Dallas, you spread out over Texas. And then what was the key factor that made you go virtual? What, you just woke up and said to Alyssa, right, let's take on the country? Or was it a little bit simpler than that?
Well, actually, I had got served for the third time from the DNC list. And I'm the kind of guy that I have buddies who they never even scrub the DNC list, which is the do not call list for anybody out there listening. And they don't care. They're just like, whatever. And I was never like that. I would put every lead we pulled, I would put into the DNC list. I would try to take them out. And I got fed up with getting served. I got served for the third time in my house. And I was like, man, we got to do something different. Like, I don't want to do cold calling and text messaging anymore. And so I ended up going to a networking event. I met Nick Perry there, and he has his own mastermind called the 7-Figure Cartel. And I talked to him. I was explaining, my situation, kind of where I was at. I was like, I'm here in Dallas, Texas. We do deals in Houston and San Antonio as well. But I really, I like your model of going, the whole nation. And I know you have the materials and the strategies on how to scale to do that. And so, would I be a good fit for your mastermind? Basically, is what I said. His response was, "You're talking to Noah before the flood," and he goes, "Join it. I promise you, we'll change the landscape of your business." And we joined it. And I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't sunshine and rainbows at first, because you got to think, like, I knew Dallas Fort Worth like the back of my hand. I knew Houston, Texas. I knew San Antonio. I could do deals anywhere in Texas, really. But now you're talking about getting a deal in Syracuse, New York, or Boston, Massachusetts, or some podunk town in Washington, that you don't know. How do you find buyers there? How do you, the marketing was easy. We did nationwide PPC. So once we kind of figured that out, it was easier to get the deals. But are you picking them up right? Are you able to sell them? So it was a lot of trial and error. I mean, we jumped to doing 25, 30 contracts a month very quickly. But we started realizing about half of those aren't actually contracts. We're just locking them up, but we're not selling them. So that doesn't really count. So it was. And we still, even to this day, we just picked up one in Arkansas 2 weeks ago that we thought was going to be a deal. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a deal. We thought we picked it up at the right price, but it just ended up not being. And also, you're talking to these sellers all over the phone, which is a totally different skill set. Now you got to be able to close over the phone, right? It's all inside phone sales, which thankfully we do a lot of training every single day. So my guys are pretty efficient when it comes to that. But these homeowners, they'll tell you anything that you want to hear. So you might be told that this house is in pristine condition, but really it's a teardown. So it's something you got to navigate through.
So what were the foundations that you laid? Like, you obviously, you did the virtual course, and it was a bit of trial and error. What were the main foundations you had to lay so that it was a little bit more, to make it a little bit more predictable? Because like you said, at that start, it was all over the place and you had to sort of pull it back in. What did you guys do to, lay out a foundation and maybe some steps to make sure that things were a little bit stable, rather than being all over the place?
Sure. Yeah. I would say the three hardest things about going nationwide or virtual in general. The first one is going to be your marketing. You have to know how, if you're going all 50 states, or, we went to like 42 states, you have to know how to run PPC either yourself or you got to hire somebody that does that's really good. Thankfully, from my past, networking and being diligent about doing that, I had actually met a gentleman who that was what he does for a living, was PPC. And I went ahead and I talked with him, I networked with him, and kind of came up with a little bit of a structure that he would get paid on every deal that we got. And so he became our marketer, and our cost per lead was awesome from the get-go. It was between $40 and $50 per lead, and we were closing about 15 of those, 15 to 20 was a contract. So our cost per lead was awesome, and our leads per deal was awesome as well. So that would be number one, is make sure your marketing is on point. And then number two is you got to know how to find the buyers. That's the hardest part, right? And because when you're just a wholesaler in one little market, you really focus a lot on cash buyers, networking with them in Facebook groups and things like that. When you go nationwide, you start to realize realtors are your best friend. And a lot of realtors sell our deals. I mean, we pulled every single realtor from all of Zillow. So every realtor on Zillow we have in our database. We have over 3 million basically individuals that we can reach out to in any given location to help us sell our deals. So that would be number two, is got to learn how to sell your deals. Because if you could pick up every contract in the world, but if you can't sell it, doesn't matter. You're not getting paid. And then the third one, which is the most tricky because you really don't have a lot of control, is title. We have a lot of issues with title going nationwide, unfortunately. There are some good nationwide title companies out there, but you're just a minnow in the ocean to them, which sometimes that's what you have to do. But communication can be lax, and sometimes you can get overlooked because maybe you're only sending them, a couple deals a month, but some other wholesaler or, the Sean Terrys of the world are sending them 40, 50, 60. So they're really focused on them, and they have a whole handful of those kind of guys. So those three, marketing, dispositions, and title, have been the hardest things for us to learn and really adapt to.
Yeah, and that's a great point with the title company. It's got to be a wholesaler friendly one too, doesn't it? You can't just lob into a market and go, this title company looks all right. You've got to really drill down and find out through Facebook groups and other contacts that you've got in those markets to find the right title company, because that can blow up a deal, can't it? It can, if you go with the wrong person, you just get lost. And I'm sure you've had that. And sometimes the bigger ones aren't the best. The nationwide ones aren't generally, you can get lost and passed around the office, and someone leaves and someone's sick. So you would have been through that. You would have had to put in a process to make sure that when you hit a market and you get a contract signed up, that you get the right title company. So that's something for people that are listening and watching is that's, for virtual, that's hugely important. And I was going to ask you that question, but you jumped on it straight away, is about the realtors, how valuable realtors are in a virtual situation, because they know the market. They work the areas, they work the cities, and they come with a database of investors and buyers, don't they? So you've sort of already got a pre-existing buyers list there. And other wholesalers is another one too, isn't it? If you've got other wholesalers that you can network in other cities as well. So that's good. So you're all over that. You might have learned it the hard way. You're sort of trial and error, but once you get those steps in place, like you said, moving the deal is very important. Now, marketing. What's the main marketing you do for virtual? What's been the most successful for you? Is it the PPC or cold calling or texting? What's worked the best for you?
Yeah, so we do PPC nationwide, which I recommend doing PPC, and then where you're starting to find little pockets across the country that you're able to do deals with, and you really like these areas, then you can start going back to the cold calling and texting in those specific areas, or mailers, or we do TV, radio nationwide as well sometimes. And so, when you start finding these little pockets, in, Minnesota or Montana or, Wisconsin, whatever it is, it doesn't have a lot of competition, then you can start pulling the counties, you can start pulling the zip codes, going and doing your normal stuff in there to kind of blanket that territory. But for the most part, we do nationwide PPC, and we do deals all over the country. And then that also allowed us to network with a lot of JV wholesalers, not only to help us sell our deals, but also to help them sell their deals as well, because we've really focused on the dispo position and how to sell a deal really anywhere. I mean, we've sold a deal in almost every single state, even states we don't market in, like South Dakota. I've done deals just because we know how to find the buyers now, and we have the realtors already in place. And something to go back, Graham, to talk about the realtors. There's really two things that we learned that are very, very important when it comes to working with realtors. The first one is that you don't want to just go up and tell them that you are a wholesaler. Now, I'm not telling you to lie to them, but they don't want to just work with wholesalers, because there's a lot of wholesalers out there that really don't know what they're doing. They watch the YouTube video, they hit up somebody on Zillow, they got their property under contract, and then they hit up a realtor to help them sell it. What you want to do is you want to let the realtor know that you are an investor, you do deals in this area, but this particular one isn't working for you, so you need help, and you're wondering if they work with cash buyers. That way, they are more inclined, okay, hey, if I help this person, maybe I can do a deal with them later in the future because they're a repeat client for me, right? And then number two is, I see this all the time. Wholesalers, they get a scarcity mindset, right? They're like, oh man, well, I don't want to give this realtor 3%, or I don't, or maybe it's only a $40,000 house and 3% is not that much. So I don't want to give them, $2,000 to help me market that deal. But it's like, guys, if you just give them if you tell them, hey, look, you can help me find a buyer, I'll pay you a $2,000 commission, and they bring you 5 or 6 buyers and they bid the price up. Well, you just made an extra 5-10 grand that you would have never made had you not networked with that realtor. So I encourage your listeners to not have a scarcity mindset. Half a watermelon is larger than a full grape.
Yeah,
I always
definitely
tell my followers that.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that. But definitely a good point is, don't form a relationship with the realtors. Form a relationship. Don't rush in. Don't have that scarcity mindset, and try and get to know the person. That's actually a human being. If you get to know them, you get on their level, and it's very important to use their language. Don't use your language, like you said, because it's like when you meet someone and they're in your face. It puts you off. So you've got to think of the same thing when you're dealing with a realtor, and they're from a different world. And there's always been that little thing between realtors and wholesalers. So, like you said, you're an investor, you're doing something in that market, and just talk their language. And once you get rapport with a realtor, they're good people. They'll help you out, and I like that. I like that they bring a few buyers, and the price goes up anyway, so that probably covers their costs. So it sounds like you've done it a few times, and you've seen how important it is to build rapport. And the same with working with other wholesalers. Don't have that scarcity mindset. There's plenty for everyone, and you're better off looking at the 10 deals rather than just one deal. Look at the bigger picture. So there's some really good points there, Zach. So let's go back to your team and your office. Is it chaos? How are you guys set up? Do you guys have you got a home office? How are you guys set up? Are you virtual? Like, have you got people in different places, or are you all in one place?
Yeah, so we actually used to all be in the same office, and it was very, Wolf of Wall Street, high octane, caffeine flowing, just, constantly on the phone. And it was a blast. And we're definitely going to get back to that. But right now, we're actually all virtual. I have half my team is in Florida already. Me and Alyssa are still here in Texas. My TC actually lives in Alabama. And so it's very much virtual right now. We rely on Slack. We have a Zoom meeting every single morning where we train and we go over current deals and where we're at and all that good stuff. So we still treat it like an office setting. We're constantly in communication all the time. We use Boxer a lot, which is like a walkie-talkie app. And so we're very much in communication, but my team definitely misses the camaraderie of being in the office, and, music's blaring and we're all just, we lock up a deal and we bang the horn and all that fun stuff. So we're excited to get back to that, which we will be here hopefully by this summer. And so, but right now everything is virtual, which also is for anybody out there. That's the cool thing about the world that we're in today. With Zoom. I mean, you and I are sitting here having a podcast right now, and you're halfway across the world. So awesome, the technology that we have and what we're able to accomplish by because of that.
That's what I was going to say, Zach. It's amazing the turbo boost that the industry's got and blown up virtually from off the back of COVID. And I've got a mate over here that's in Melbourne, Australia. His partner's over in New York. They've got people they work with, disposition in Florida, and they sell deals to a guy in Italy. So I mean, it's just amazing, like how this thing can work. And like you said, you can still get a good vibe. Like I've been in so many groups, and I've met and worked with so many people via Zoom. I mean, and you can build good rapport. Like you said, you're sort of on the other side of the world. So the virtual model is not just good for going and getting deals and moving deals. It's good for building your team. I mean, you might end up with a gun acquisitions person that's on the other side of the country. It doesn't matter. It's part of your team. Like you said, it'd be good if you could do the Wolf of Wall Street and do the high fives and all that, but you can still do that via Zoom. You just got to be careful you don't smash the screen. You got to, if it's a touch screen. But no, that's great. That's great. I just sort of asked that because a lot of people that are new are probably saying, "Well, how do you pull it all together?" And like you said, you have a Zoom meeting every morning. You've obviously you've got good systems in place, and you've got the right people to do the right job. And then your extended team is the team on the ground, which you said is a title company, which is realtors, wholesalers, all sorts of people that you build up on the ground. So it just gives people a bit of an insight from someone that's actually doing it and is really successful at it. So I appreciate you sharing that. Now, you seem, Zach, I've spoke to you a couple of times. You seem like a pretty pumped up guy. I just met Alyssa. She seems pretty pumped up. What have you used along the journey for personal development and for your mindset to push through those barriers? Have you done a fair bit of work on your own mindset?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a believer of Jesus Christ, so that's first and foremost for me. And so I really try to focus on Him first, and then let Him lead me. But I really think that morning routines are huge, right? And my whole entrepreneurial career, I've tried to focus on having a morning routine. But a lot of times, if somebody wants to wake up earlier, they don't think about, well, they got to go to bed earlier, right? Because if you're staying up till midnight and you're trying to wake up 4 or 5 in the morning, you're not going to do it. You're going to sleep in. So that's step one: go to bed earlier, right? I'm in sleep by 9 p.m. every single day. I know it's boring, but Alyssa and I are in bed asleep by 9. I wake up at 4, and then I first thing I do is I go to the gym. On my way to the gym, I usually listen to some sort of spiritual podcast. I try to get just a bunch of positivity in me first, connect with my faith. And then at the gym, I don't listen to music. I love music, but my whole thing in the morning is I got to get my mind right. So I'm listening to either continue my spiritual podcast, or I'm listening to like Alex Hormozy, Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, Tony Robbins, somebody that's going to fill me full of, that success mindset that I need. And then from there, whenever I get back to my house, first thing I do is I read my daily Bible. And then I study a skill. So my meeting with my team is at 8:30 a.m. every single day. So if I wake up at 4, I have 4.5 hours of getting my day corrected before I have to go and meet with my team via Zoom. And so after I get home from the gym, I drink a protein shake, I read my Bible. That gives me an hour and a half usually to study some skill. And whatever skill that is, whether it's, hey, I need to focus on high ticket sales, marketing, like some sort of new real estate thing that I want to learn, whether it's subject to novations, whatever, right? So it gives me an hour and a half to study. And what do I do to study? If there's a particular book that I'm reading, what I will do is I'll actually download the Audible version of it as well, and then I'll follow along. So cool thing about that is, one, you can read it faster because now you can put it on about 1.4, 1.5, which I'm not about just blowing through books. I want to actually retain it. But since somebody's reading it to you and you're visually looking at it, you're actually tapping into more senses, so you retain the information a lot more. So if there's a book, that's what I'll be focusing on. I do a lot of YouTube. I mean, YouTube University, I'm just constantly consuming YouTube because there's so much free content out there. Pretty much you can learn anything you want about real estate on YouTube. Now, I'm all about hiring mentors and stuff. I think it's awesome. I do it myself. But if you don't have the money to do it, there's no excuse because YouTube is free and it is all right there. So, and I write my goals down every single day. I'm not a guy that has, 50 goals. I usually have about 10 because I like to stay focused on what it is that I'm doing. And then it's all in the same journal. And when I accomplish that goal, I highlight it and then I write the date at the top. So that way, as I'm flipping through at the end of the year, I can be like, oh man, look at all these goals that I accomplished. Because a lot of times you don't realize that you're accomplishing these goals, or you do at the time, but then, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now, you don't realize how far you've come because you didn't track it. So that's something that I do religiously.
Yeah, that's very important to celebrate the wins, isn't it? Because you can get caught up in the next goal, the next goal, the next goal. So you've just hit it on the head. You need to be able to celebrate, and look, even putting something under contract, celebrate it. If it falls through, well, you can commiserate it, but you've got to constantly sort of high five yourself, don't you? Because you can get caught up in that stretching all the time for something more, something more. So that's an awesome point, and I mean that is a really good success habit routine. I mean that is awesome what you do, and most of the people that I interview that are doing really well out there have something very similar. They have in the morning, they do some exercise, they do devotions, or they do some sort of inspiration that they do daily. And like you said, writing your goals down daily is a massive one. I've had a mentor of mine tell me that's how he basically broke through years ago. Was his mentor told him you got to write your goals down daily. Now it might only be 10-point form things, so you're not there writing War and Peace every day, but it's important because the subconscious mind picks it up. So yeah, that's a really cool routine. And then I'm hoping that you come home and make Alyssa breakfast in bed. That she gets breakfast in bed, or is she already up at the gym as well?
Yeah, so she's usually by the time I get home, she's usually sitting at the dinner table with a cup of coffee. She's reading her Bible as well. So
Yeah.
we're very much. She's kind of the woman version of me, to be honest with you. She's very much, success minded and goal oriented, and to touch more on the goal aspect. Jim Rohn, he always talks about you got to set your sail, and that's what goals do. They set your focus because
Yeah.
where you focus goes, right, energy flows. So you want to focus on the right things, and so that's what helps with when you're writing down your goals.
Yep. Yep. No, awesome. Awesome. Sounds like, early days, you had a few setbacks, which built your resilience. And it sounds like with what you do every morning and your faith and how you set yourself up for the day, is that's how you've been able to push through a lot of stuff. So congratulations. I mean, it's a credit to you guys to, with the setbacks that you've had, to be able to go not only from Texas, but to go nationwide and to be building a good business. So it's awesome. I'm just going to, Zac, point out your Facebook group. This Zac's Facebook group's here, and his Instagram. So reach out to Zac if you want to ask him any questions, you want to work with him, you want to learn anything about virtual wholesaling, because these guys are in the trenches. They do it. They're good at it. And reach out to him. And even if it's just to ask a question, you can tell that Zac's, he's like you said, there's so much information out there. He'd be happy to share information. I don't know. Do you do any sort of mentoring or anything like that, Zac?
I do, yes, I do. I don't push it really too much, but I do have guys that I offer my guidance and assistance to 100%.
Yep.
And I'd be more than happy to help any of your listeners. Just have them reach out to me on Instagram, or
Yeah.
they can join our Facebook group, which is Nationwide Wholesalers Connect. We named it Nationwide because, well, our company is nationwide, but we can help any wholesaler, whether they are nationwide or they are in somewhere, just their local market. And or if you just want to learn more about it, we're in there. It's a very positive group. We help each other. We network. We teach each other, and also we help people sell their deals. Not only us, but
Yep.
also other guys in the group. What can help you out too, which is super cool.
Which is a great asset for new people to be able to have that burden lifted off them, because you know yourself, when you first start off, like you said earlier in the interview, you were just head down, bum up, trying to get deals. And then sometimes you can let the disposition sort of lag, and all of a sudden you go, oh, what do we do here? So to have experienced guys like Zac and people in his group is very important. So so Nationwide Wholesalers Direct is the Facebook group. Jump in
Yeah,
there.
Nationwide Wholesalers Connect. Yep.
Connect. Sorry, connect. So connect.
No
Jump
worries.
in there. Jump in there. That's the best way to get access to someone. Someone that's got a Facebook group. Jump in there. Show a bit of interest. Network with the people in the group, and then that's why you get access to someone like Zac. I mean, it's amazing. The Facebook groups are a super highway into meeting people like Zac who are in the trenches making it happen. So jump in that group. And you mentioned Mick Perry. Mick Perry's, you did obviously a mentorship with him, and how that was like the catalyst of you basically taking off. Was it like you learnt?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have to give. Oh, sorry, you lagged there. I apologize. What were we saying?
I was just saying, you obviously did the mentorship. Like, you can't just do a mentorship and it's all, like you said, rainbows and unicorns. You've got to do the hard work. But obviously, that was something you got the information, and then you went from there. So you obviously, you've got your own model now, and that's probably what you're teaching is your own version of that model. But like you said before, how important do you find mentors as well as doing your own stuff? Um, you know, someone that basically took you under their wing and taught you their process. Do you continually do stuff like that?
Absolutely. I got to give Nick a bunch of credit. I mean, he completely changed my business. I mean, I'll give him credit for as long as I'm in real estate for sure. And he's, what I recommend if you're looking at hiring somebody as your mentor or your coach, one, you want to make sure they are actually doing it. They're not just teaching, right? Because there are a lot of guys out there, they just regurgitate information and they teach. Um, I wanted somebody that's actually doing it and doing it at I mean, it will take me a long time to catch up to Nick from the amount of volume that he's doing, which is super cool. And he's always innovating and doing new stuff. And not only that, but joining his mastermind, I'm now networking with other high level guys that are also doing multiple seven figures a year. And you're learning a lot from them as well. I've met a lot of really good friends in that group, and so I highly recommend it. I have mentors in almost every aspect of my life, and
Yep.
I think that's what to do, right? Tony Robbins
Yep.
says success leaves clues, and so
Yep.
in order to um, you know shorten that time frame, is you want to be taught by somebody who's already been there. And so
Yep.
when Nick said, "Hey, you're talking to Noah before the flood," because I've already been through it,
Yep.
it made total sense, and so I recommend that for anybody. Spend the money. I mean, Alyssa and I have spent our last couple $1,000s before to go to an event to then meet somebody or get a golden nugget out of that event that we took back home and completely changed our business
Yeah.
and skyrocketed us. So
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I mean, you've covered it all. Mentors, people that have already climbed the mountain, seek those people out. Hang around with like-minded people. Get in groups. Network with people. Masterminds. That's a secret. And the success habits. I mean, that's a big one too. That you do that every morning and without fail. So there you go, guys. Take all those little thunderbolts out of there, all those nuggets, and if you're starting off, don't basically what Zac said at the start was don't give up. Just keep pushing through. If it takes 6 months to get a deal, if it takes 12 months to get your second deal, of it, just keep pushing and set yourself up for success. Do the things. Go back and listen to this because Zac's nailed pretty much everything of what's worked not only for him but for other people in the industry that are doing great things. So we'll leave it there, Zac. That was awesome. I appreciate you dropping all those nuggets for us and just give us an insight into your business that it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns and that you guys started off by yourselves. You built up, you invested in yourself, and you've backed yourself. So from way back at the furniture shop in Dallas to nationwide, you've been able to build something and a legacy that you can take throughout your life and you can share with your family and leave a legacy for them. So congratulations, mate. It's awesome to hear your story, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast. And I know you guys will, keep crushing it and just blow up further nationwide. So just thank you for sharing those tips with us. So, just anything final you'd like to say, Zac, to the listeners? Anything, any words of motivation to finish off on?
Yeah, I mean, I just think if your listeners, if anybody out there is struggling or they're like, man, I really want to do this, I don't know where to start. That's the key, is just to start. Type in wholesaling on YouTube, type in whatever your issue is that you're having, meet people, network, just don't give up. That is one of the, like Grant Cardone always talks about. He's like, you can't fail if you never quit, right? So if you just don't stop, you will eventually learn the formula. And with today's society, everybody wants to be, a multimillionaire within 90 days. And it's not a microwave industry. It's not a get rich quick, but you can get rich for sure if you learn the process. And generally, it takes 5 to 7 years for somebody to learn any industry and become a master success. So just keep that in mind, guys. Don't give up. Don't quit. Continue to learn, continue to network, and always write your goals down so that you have that direction.
Great advice. Thanks, Zac. We'll finish on that. And thanks for everyone for watching. Go back and listen to some of the little nuggets that the clues that Zac's left behind. And thanks to Zac Fischer, you guys have been thunderstruck. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, Grant, for having me.